The word the is the most common word in the English language, and at first glance might seem super easy. While the basic definition is pretty straightforward, there are dozens of rules and exceptions for where or where not to use it. This can lead to a lot of confusion for English students and make you sound a lot less natural. We're not going to master all the nuances of this tricky article in just one video, but we are going to take a look at some common mistakes that English students make and work on overcoming them so that you can be one step closer to more natural sounding speech. Let's take a look. You already know that the is the article used to refer to a specific noun. We'd say things like, he is the smartest boy because only one can be the smartest. We say the equator because it's a specific location on the globe. And I stopped by the church because I went to a specific building. The problem is that there's all these seemingly random rules and exceptions. Not to mention there's another article used to refer to non-specific nouns. She is a smart girl because there are many smart girls. She's just one of them. We say, have you visited Africa? Because even though Africa is a specific country, we typically don't use the with most countries. Finally, I went to church today because now, instead of going to the building, I mean that I participated in the actual worship service. Ay, ay, ay. Annoyingly, that's only a taste of the rules and exceptions out there. With that in mind, instead of spending this video giving you an endless list of rules, we'll focus on just two common problems that you're likely to face. Let's figure out what the first one is together. Do you think the word the fits in this sentence? This one was pretty easy, and the answer is no, it doesn't. Here, English is the noun, and it's a language. You know there's a rule that says don't use the with the names of languages. Great. So then this sentence should be pretty easy. Does the fit here? Surprisingly, it does. I want to learn everything about the English language. But why? The difference between the first sentence and this one is that here, English is actually an adjective that modifies language. That means our rule about not using the with the names of languages is no longer relevant. Instead, we have to look at the actual noun, which is language, and ask if we are talking about them in general or a specific one. Of course, here we are talking about a specific one, English. If English was the noun, then our original rule would apply, since now I'm referring to the name of the language directly, and we just say, I want to learn everything about English. Let's continue to explore this problem. Does the fit in this sentence? Yes, it does. Here, 60s is a noun, and we know that there's a rule that says you should use the with specific periods of time. Easy. So then in this sentence, we should also use the, right? Nope. Again, we're contradicting that rule, or so it seems. Like before, in this situation, 1970s is actually an adjective describing Chicago. Which Chicago? The Chicago of the 1970s. Since 1970s is an adjective, the rule about specific periods of time doesn't apply, and instead we have to look at Chicago, since it's the noun. The rule with cities, of course, is that we don't use the. You probably have a really good idea of what the overall problem is here, but let's look at one more example to solidify it. Does the fit in this sentence? Yes. Internet is the noun, and we know we use the when there is only one of something. There's only one internet. So then, does it fit here as well? Nope, it does not. And I'm sure at this point you know exactly why. Internet in this sentence is an adjective describing culture, so the rule about there being only one of something doesn't apply. Instead, we look at culture, which is an abstract noun for which we typically don't use the. Even though we're talking about internet culture, which is a type of culture, it still isn't specific enough. in the minds of English speakers. We're still just talking about this vague idea of a culture in general. To summarize, the first problem occurs when nouns pretend to be adjectives. When this happens, you need to basically ignore any rules that would typically apply to the noun that is pretending to be an adjective and look at the actual noun that it is describing to know what to do. To learn more about these types of nouns pretending to be adjectives, check out my video on adjective order. Time to figure out the second problem. Take a look at this sentence. Should we use the here? Yes, because we're talking about a specific situation. However, there's another big problem in this sentence. I need help with the situation like what? Let's look at another sentence to figure out what to put here. This sentence is structured a little better. Does the fit in this one? No, it doesn't. The reason why is because crimes is a general thing. We're not talking about a specific crime, we're simply talking about the category of things known as crimes. We then use the word like to introduce two examples, murder and robbery. While students might get confused and think that since we're giving some specific examples that crimes are now specific, but that isn't the case. If we're going to use like to introduce examples, then the thing before the like is typically going to be something generic, and therefore typically won't use a the. By the way, if murder and robbery are specific examples of crimes, then why don't we say the murder or the robbery? The reason is because murder and robbery, while more specific than crimes, are still just categories. We're not referring to a specific murder or robbery. If we had said he committed a lot of crimes like the murder of his boss, then the fits because we're talking about the specific event that took place. Looking back at our first sentence, we have a bit of a dilemma. Earlier, I said that the fits because we're talking about a specific situation. But then I just told you that if we're using like to give examples, then the first thing is typically generic. That means we need to do one of two things here. On the one hand, we could get rid of the like altogether so that we say, I need help with the situation below. It's really confusing. And this now means that we are talking about one specific situation that I'm going to explain in detail below, perhaps in an email. This is a pretty common expression in emails, by the way. For example, see below, or what do you think about the question below? On the other hand, if we do want to use like to give examples, then we need to make situation generic. So we get rid of the and we make it plural, because we're now talking about many situations like the situation below. Of course, in order to avoid repeating ourselves, we can say the one below instead of the situation below. I need help with situations like the one below. They're really confusing. At this point, we can now see that the second problem is when we use like to introduce specific examples of something. Just because we're giving specific examples doesn't mean that the thing we are giving examples for is now specific. Let's do a few exercises to wrap up. What do you think about this one? It should be, I went to the basketball game yesterday. Since basketball is an adjective in this sentence, the rule about not using the with sports doesn't apply. Instead, the noun is game, which refers to a specific event. How about this one? I don't struggle with words like water or later, but every time I say writer, I mess it up. Words is a non-specific thing for which we're giving a couple specific examples. Last one. We need to save the planet for future generations. Since future is an adjective here, the rule about using the for things that there are only one of, like the future, doesn't apply. Instead, we must look at generations, which is one of these vague, abstract nouns that does not require a the. The word the is pretty complicated with a lot of rules and exceptions, but it is worth investing some time improving your mastery of it. Whenever you're faced with a complicated situation like this, don't get discouraged if you can't master it in a short period of time. Instead, be on the lookout for sentences that are confusing to you that you hear native speakers say. If you're not 100% sure about why they did or did not use the, write it down and see if you can figure it out, either by looking it up or asking a teacher or native speaker. As time goes on, you'll have plenty of examples in your collection to help you develop your intuition. For now, my recommendation is to take a break and later look for some examples of the two mistakes that we talked about in the video today and try to use them more in your daily speaking or writing. If you like this video and want more, be sure to click subscribe and head over to deliberateenglish.com to learn about how to speak fluent English and understand native speakers. Have a good one.